Welcome back, everyone. Do you want to know if you can take a startup DTG business to $1 million a year? If you're thinking about whether or not you should buy a DTG machine in 2019, we're going to answer both of those questions, so stick around. Rather than wait until the end of the video to share my opinion on whether or not you should buy a DTG machine, I'm going to let you know now while I still have everyone's attention. Simply put, my advice is that you should start inexpensively. Get sales, and prove that your strategy is both viable and profitable by outsourcing everything that would require expensive equipment. Once you have a history of sales, by all means, get whatever equipment you need to help you meet the proven demand of your clients. If that demand ends up best being served by a DTG machine, buy a DTG machine. If you end up having clients that tend towards screen printing, buy a press. We're not talking about ghost baseball players on your field of dreams. If you build it, they won't necessarily come. We're talking about real financial consequences and debt that you could be carrying for years, all because you signed your name for some equipment that ended up going unused. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to approach the decision to buy a DTG machine from the perspective of a startup. We're going to take a look at how much money the best funded DTG startups are making today and whether or not you can realistically earn $1 million a year in a DTG business. If you already have an established business and you're trying to figure out whether or not you should buy a DTG machine to supplement or expand, I'm going to make a separate video down the road if there's enough traction from this video. Stick around because there's going to be a lot of useful information talking about the revenue numbers that a DTG business can earn. It may just be one department out of your business, but it'll be good information all the same. Because each and every one of your situations are unique, I'm going to use actual financial information that I pulled up from a major DTG franchise. It's going to take a little bit of calculation, but we're going to turn their marketing hype into usable data. Now get this, in order to be awarded a franchise with this company, these 100 entrepreneurs had to invest between $180,000 and $250,000. On top of that, they needed to have $50,000 in working capital left over just to keep their business running. So we're going to be talking about a caliber of people who have done quite literally everything possible to ensure the success of their business and their major investment. If that's not enough, they have the benefit of $30 million in yearly sales to draw information from and tweak their strategy. Part of the reason I wanted to use well-funded startups as a guidepost is because I wanted to eliminate a lot of the excuses that an inexperienced entrepreneur might use to tell themselves why their competitors are failing in the business and how they're going to succeed. Just the existence of a DTG franchise is a fantastic opportunity for you and I. It allows us to take a look at how 100 different DTG businesses are doing because we have access to public statements made by this franchise. Furthermore, all of them were started with the same parameters to ensure the best chance of success, and they're all being executed with proven strategies. Simply put, we're ignoring at least the bottom 85% of less qualified DTG buyers. So this really is a near best case scenario of what 100 well-funded, well-executed, well-positioned DTG startups can expect. By the way, if you like this video and this type of content, please take a second to like and subscribe. It makes a world of difference. And if you leave a comment after watching this video, I will almost certainly respond. Now, I said it before, but to just be awarded a franchise, these entrepreneurs had to invest $180,000 to $250,000 and have $50,000 in working capital left over to survive the first year. So you may be wondering, what exactly does that money go towards? First, they have a $40,000 franchisee fee. Yikes. But the other $140,000 to $210,000 is going to go towards training, to the build out of a high traffic retail and production facility, equipment, inventory, supplies, signage, lease agreements, etc. So be honest with me here for a second. Was the cost that you were fixated when you came into this video, the $15,000 or $20,000 that it was going to take to pull in the DTG equipment and heat press? Or worse, were you just looking at the monthly payment and thinking, I could probably do that? If so, you're not accounting for 90% of the expenses that it took the following 100 entrepreneurs just to create the conditions where some of them, not all, some of them are going to be able to hit the numbers I'm about to tell you. By now you're probably very curious. Exactly how much money does a DTG business that takes $250,000 to start actually make? And if you were lucky enough to be one of these franchisees, what are the actual chances that you're going to make $1 million in yearly revenue? Well, let's start with the information the franchise uses to entice potential franchisees. Average store revenue $512,999. Asterisk. Average number of customers, 2,881. Asterisk. Average sale, $183.87. Asterisk. Gross profit margin, 67.9%. Asterisk. 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 The disclaimer states that those numbers are the average. Great, right? No, because it's actually the average of the top third of performing stores by revenue. And even then, only stores that are in their second year of operation or later. So first of all, even by their own marketing, if you're looking to hit $1 million with your DTG business, it's already not looking good. But second, and more importantly, we've got a real problem with these numbers, and I'm going to explain to you why. You see, statistics can be manipulated. So let's break down what these numbers actually mean and see what you and I would consider as the average person is actually making on their $250,000 investment. So using the numbers that I just read off to you, as well as doing some digging, I found in certain press releases the 2017 annual revenue for the entire company amongst all their franchisees, as well as a different press release where they shared the year-over-year growth for 2018 was double digits. That usually means a little over 10%. And their 2019 year-to-date growth was another 15%. We can actually put those numbers together and plot out the likely revenue numbers for each of the 100 franchisees. A little something called the Pareto principle comes in real handy here. You might know it as the 80-20 rule. A really simple explanation of the 80-20 rule is that there's a tendency in nature for a large number of the effects we see to have a small number of shared causes. For instance, 80% of people live in 20% of countries. 80% of the words we use in our day-to-day conversation come from 20% of the dictionary. Now, even though we know this rule most likely applies, we have to modify it using the available data to make it useful. It's important to note, we're not looking at 100 randomly chosen shops out of the DTG or apparel printing industry as a whole. We're really only looking at a highly qualified subset. These are people that have passed a really high financial barrier to entry. They've picked retail locations that are known for high traffic and good demographic areas. These companies have partaken in rigorous planning and training exercises. There's a lot of things that are going to affect the distribution of these franchises. And believe it or not, they do a pretty good job. They bring it up to about a 60-40 rule instead of an 80-20 rule for the industry as a whole. That's a much higher success rate. And if you look at the distribution of revenue from the top performing stores to the least performing stores, it's much, much more even. So how did we figure this out? Well, we know that the top 33 or 34 franchises did an average of $513,000 in revenue. That comes out to about $17.4 million. The total reported revenue of the franchise in 2017 was $25 million. They had double-digit growth in 2018 combined with year-to-date 15% growth in 2019. That puts them on track for, let's just say, $31.5 million. That means the top third of franchises earned about 55% of the entire revenue that the company did. If we add in estimate numbers for the other 6 franchises, that puts us at about $19.1 million, or almost 60% on the button for the top 40% of franchisees. Now, the only caveat is there are very likely some stores towards the bottom 20 that are hemorrhaging money, they're going under, they're struggling in one way or another, and that would normally boost the overall revenue numbers of the other 80. But since we don't have any of that information, let's just assume that all 100 boats are sailing along on a perfect little Pareto curve. Now, here's where that $513,000 average annual per year revenue is pretty misleading. The best stores are going to be doing disproportionately better than their peers. By my calculations, only the top 10 stores are going to be earning at least $510,000 or more, whereas the next 23 or 24 stores are going to fall off to the point where store number 33 is likely earning closer to $300,000 a year in revenue. When they average it all together, sure, they're all making $513,000, but there's a different story when you look at the spread and distribution of what the revenues really look like. Out of the 10% or 10 stores that are making over $513,000 that the company claimed as average, I estimate only 2 of them are doing more than $1 million. My money is on $1.4 million for the number 1 performing franchisee, followed by about $1.05 million for the number 2 franchisee. The third franchisee, by my calculations, is trailing behind at about $875,000, and it falls off from there. So, what that tells us is if you were to drop $250,000 to start up a DTG business with all of the fine-tuned knowledge of the industry, you only have about a 2% chance of making $1 million when you're in full swing. I mean, that's pretty disheartening. So what does the middle of the road, $250,000 deep DTG business startup owner operator actually make? Well, if we take the top 33 and the bottom 20 stores that are likely struggling, we see that just under half of these stores are hitting in the $200,000 to $300,000 a year range. Now, among their expenses are 1,200 to 1,600 square foot in high traffic retail space. That means we're not talking about some podunk off the side business. These people are not operating out of their garage. They're not operating in some industrial park. They're in malls and strip malls that are seeing high traffic and are likely $23 a square foot a year or more. On top of that, you've got to factor in franchisee costs. To have access to all that infrastructure, all that strategy and tweaking and industry knowledge, they're paying 6% of their annual revenue, not of their profit, of their annual revenue, just to be a part of the franchise, along with another 1.5% national marketing campaign budget contribution, with a minimum of $1,200 per month. Tack on ambiguously tallied labor costs and the expectation of the owner to most likely be an operator, and we can make an educated guess to say that each of these franchisees is on track to make between $60,000 and $110,000 a year before taxes. That means with a $250,000 investment, some fantastic industry-leading training, signage, a beautiful showroom, a national marketing campaign, strong SEO, and they even have a workaround to execute large orders without bogging down their DTG machine. They have a contract for a transfer company that provides them with 72 transfers or more for a highly discounted rate. Even with all of that infrastructure though, you're looking at a 50% chance to make like a decent to livable wage, an 8% chance to hit a home run, a 2% chance to make over $1 million a year, and a 40% chance that you're either gonna struggle or go under. Now I wanna take a step back here. Be honest with me for just a second. How many of you watching this video came into this thinking that like $15,000 to $20,000 was a lot of money, but that you could probably swing the payments? And besides, like once your unique marketing strategy takes off, you're gonna blow up anyways, right? And it won't be an issue. All you need is, man, if I had the equipment, I could do it. The hard truth about low volume clients is that they do exist, and there are a lot of them. Not only that, they really want someone to print their stuff. Unfortunately, the logistics necessary to service those clients and turn a profit is challenging. Even at prices 2, 3, and 4 times what you would charge with screen printing, even when you put massive capital into doing it right. The reality is that the apparel industry is hard. It's not impossible. And with work and dedication, you can make it. Some of you watching this video probably do have a great idea, and I think you could even turn the industry on its head. But a larger number of you are looking into getting a DTG machine with an order of magnitude less preparation, infrastructure, and capital when you compare it to these 100 businesses. And your chance of ending up in worse shape than you're in now is very, very high. You know, I had someone say I sound anti-DTG, and nothing could be further from the truth. DTG is a great advancement in technology, and it has a lasting place in the market. But part of the danger of DTG is how revolutionary and amazing it is. If you combine the excitement for the DTG with an incomplete and naive understanding of business, you have a recipe for a massive financial mistake. I see a generation of talented and hopeful entrepreneurs coming up, and the last thing I want is for your fire to get snuffed out, especially when you have the potential for greatness in you. Because let me tell you, nothing is gonna kill your potential faster than a catastrophic financial decision that haunts you for the next 10 years. That's why my advice to you is to get started cheap. Make some sales, get some traction. Once you have some money flowing, then buy the equipment that's gonna help you service your existing customers. It's not glamorous to start slow, but it is safe. The best part about starting slow is, if for whatever reason you decide you really hate this industry, at least you won't have $17,000 in payments left to make when you finally realize it. I mentioned it before, but if you enjoyed hanging out with me and listening to the type of content that I'm starting to put out, please like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. I can't tell you how important and how gratifying it is to see y'all's feedback, especially so early in the channel's growth. Take care, I'll see you next time.